Major funding for these broadcasts is made possible by grants from Chase Commercial Term Lending and New York Community Bank, M&T Bank, Perfect Building Maintenance, Capital One Bank, the Wyckoff Group, Greenberg Traurig. Additional funding is provided by grants from AKA Hotels, Corman Communities, Aerial Property Advisors, AVR Realty Company, Bank of America Merrill Lynch, Bank Leumi USA, Briarwood Organization, CBRE, Citizens Bank, Colliers International NYC, CPEX Real Estate Services, Cushman & Wakefield, Customers Bank, DDG, Dime Savings Bank of Williamsburg, Douglaston Development, Levine Builders, Fisher Brothers, First Nationwide Title Agency, Flushing Bank, Foley and Lardner, Friedman LLP, Adler Real Estate Organization, HAP Investment Developers, Herrick Feinstein, Investors Bank, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Institute at Syracuse University, James Orphanides, Chairman USRealty.com, John Katsimides, Red Apple Group, Kilroy Architectural Windows, New York's Window Company, Madison Realty Capital, Massey Knuckle Realty Services, Matone Group, Mercantile Commerce Bank, Meridian Capital Group, Newmark Grubb Knight Frank, New Banks, MHP Real Estate Services, People's United Bank, SJP Properties, Sterling National Bank, Sterling Risk, Stonehenge Partners, TD Bank, Terra CRG, The Continuum Company, CUNY TV Foundation, the Moynihan Group, Urban American, and These Friends.
Everybody wants to have a meeting or an event in New York. Everybody wants to be here. They always have to be here. There's events, there are weddings, bar mitzvahs, meetings, seminars, and there's technology. There's no more media. I mean, everything's going on. So today, due to the help of my dear friend Paul Neuman, the Chief Inspiration Officer at Newman's Kitchen, we have put together a group of people to talk about the event and meeting business in New York City. My guest today is the legendary David Adler, who is the founder and CEO of BizBash Media. Ryan Simonetti, who is the co-founder and CEO of Convene. Arthur Backal, known as the caterer, the party planner, everything in the hospitality business, Backal Hospitality. My dear friend Paul Neuman, Chief Inspiration Officer at Newman's Kitchen. So, in the years that you've been around,
just a few,
just a couple. Is it great?
It is great.
Okay. Is it great? You know, we're going to try to do it in Simonetti's hair over here. How has the meeting business evolved in the 21st century? You know, it's been a different world.
It's a good question, Michael. I think that what we're seeing is a desire for companies to give their guests an experience that ties the guests to the brand or gives them something experiential so that they come away from the event with a feeling about the brand or the company that has hosted the event. One of the questions we ask as we're talking to clients, one of the last questions we ask is, what do you want a guest to say as they're walking away from your event? What do you want them to be thinking about? And that's really what I think our clients want us to be concerned with, and that's what they're concerned with, is what do they want people to feel about them as a company or a brand as they engage their audience?
Well, going along with that branding, it's so important in the events because that's really what gets the message out. But it's also the social media, the information that's out there. Everything's moving so much faster. Our life's moving so much faster. So how do you bring that into the event business? You got to be able to not only respond to it, you got to be that many steps ahead of everybody.
When we talk about event, we're really talking event and we're talking meetings, which is what Converge has really taken events to a different step. Okay? Because
Convene, you're talking
Convene. Okay, over the years, it's changed over here. Let's talk about your business today. 5 years old, 4 to 5 years old?
Yeah, we actually just celebrated our 5-year anniversary today.
Wow.
believe it or not. Yeah.
Congratulations.
700 show,
Right.
5-year anniversary for Convene.
So let's
Big day.
talk about what's different between your business than Arthur and Paul's. Because Paul is in the food service business, okay? The events. Arthur has a variety of venues. Arthur runs the Mandarin Oriental. He has a hospitality business. He runs Appella, and he runs
But Appella is definitely geared towards
right
meeting
events
and
and
events.
meeting and events. And then you have the other aspects over there. And David, people want to know about events, they go to BizBash Media. That's where they find out who it is. It's like the assembly for everything. What are you doing exactly?
So it's interesting. I mean, when I'd say from Arthur's businesses, I think we're most similar to what they're doing at Appella. I think when we started the company 5 years ago, we had identified a couple big trends. The first trend was that, and I think it's really driving a secular growth story in meetings. I mean, we're really big believers in high growth within the meetings and event industry, in particular on the corporate side. And a lot of that we think was driven by the need for collaboration. If you think about competing today relative to 10, 15, or 20 years ago, and the way that work gets done today, it's in a non-linear fashion. And so what we saw happening 5 years ago was, in order for companies to compete, they're going to have to collaborate more. And no matter how great GoToMeeting is and Citrix is, it can't replicate the power of face-to-face interaction. Even though I'm a millennial, I've never done a deal where I didn't meet with somebody face-to-face. I've never created a solution to a real problem when I wasn't face-to-face. And so I think the need for collaboration has obviously fueled a lot of growth within the meetings industry in particular. And then the second thing, which is a really big trend for us, and I think where our business differentiates a little bit, is that companies from a real estate footprint standpoint, because of technology and because of what now is a mobile workforce, they're changing how much real estate they have internally.
I think that's very important because, as I was saying prior to the show, a number of the law firms, financial services firms, how are cutting down the amount of space. At one time it was 180 square foot per person. Now they work space of 100 square feet. They don't have the meeting space. They could go to your place, they can go to your place. And they don't have the corporate kitchens that they used to have, or the corporate dining rooms. We're not in there. It's a different world. And technology is so important over here. We were saying prior to the show that at one time you had, how many magazines did you have? How many times did you publish?
Right, it's all converging. It's now about digital, but it's also about the face-to-face.
Right, but the utilization of the time and the facility, and landlords are, we were saying prior to the show, certain landlords, like Richard Lefrak, when he put Nobu in, or when even Jack Resnick and Sons put the Palm in, they put these in as amenities for that building. So what certain landlords are doing to wanting you as a tenant is you're helping that building.
Completely. I mean, what Equinox is for residentially oriented real estate, Convene, we believe, is that for commercial. Because if you think about the amenities that today's tenants care about, it's lifestyle amenities. So it's food, it's services, it's concierge support, and then it's a place like a Convene to have meetings and events on an on-demand basis, because you don't want to have to pay full time.
But we spoke about the word collaboration. You're in a facilities business where you're providing services. Can people who use you utilize Paul's food over here? Can they utilize certain of the event planning that you do in addition to running your business at your facilities?
So we tend to vertically integrate. So we do have in-house culinary technology. I mean, we're big believers that a well-designed physical product or hardware matched with purposefully built and designed services, which for us is food, technology, concierge, event planning, we think that delivers a naturally better user experience and outcome. That's not to say we don't partner with Paul and wouldn't be open to allowing.
But I would say, there are people who want to be at the Mandarin Oriental. It's the premier place on Columbus Circle. It is a beautiful facility. You can't find that in your location. You don't have the windows over there. So if you want that, you have to go to Arthur. When Arthur was at the Plaza or Cipriani or these other places, it's a venue situation. Venues over there, and look at all the venues that advertise with you. There's a venue. There are certain people who want a wedding or as opposed to the meeting space, so they go to you because of the food services. There are other services. Paul depends a little bit on the meeting business, but a good portion of his business is how many breakfasts he sends out to a corporation.
But Michael, let me give you some facts that right now what's great for the meeting and event business is there's still a shortage in this, especially in New York. In 2000, there was like 72 or so thousand hotel rooms. Now there's over 111,000 and still growing. In that time, the event space and the meeting space has not grown nearly as much. It was something like, I think, allocated something like 19 square foot per room.
Right, and
where
it
now it's
30
going to go to 13 even. So these off-site places, whether they're large-scale venues, whether they're meeting spaces, everything, there's a lot of need for it. And also the companies are downsizing their usage within their
but in the
footprint.
same manner, the week before I did a hotel show, many of the hotel operators are not spending that type of money to have all of the technology in their meeting space. They utilize their meeting space or smaller spaces. Even what you said before with the new Park Hyatt. They may have beautiful space, but it's only accommodating 150 people. It's not in the same idea. And as you said to me, it's very hard to find venue space today.
I think that there's a whole new world happening where people are understanding how important this collaboration is. And as I mentioned at our pre-show, that 25% of all event marketing is all events. So there is more demand coming in every day for this, and it's going to create more demand for meetings and events and every different type of thing.
Right.
And you're going to see more and more of this.
And I think there's a few things going on. I think a company is making a decision about what the most important thing for a particular meeting is. And you guys in particular have done a great job of creating a hierarchy so that those who need technology and convenience are getting that experience. You can't get what you provide in technology anywhere else. You've also said to yourself, our food has to be amazing, but it doesn't have to be what you get somewhere else. You've made some really great decisions about what you need to provide and to attract the best meetings and conferences. And I think that the client coming to me is generally coming to me because they want food, and that's very, very high on their priority list, maybe slightly higher than it is at Convene, where they get great food, but other things are more important.
It's part of the value proposition.
Exactly.
It's not the value proposition.
Right. But I think also, David, I think we all look to you. You used an expression, you're the mayor of our world. You're the mayor of the event world. And that's really a great way to picture what you and BizBash are all about. We all go there.
But in that same question, who goes to BizBash? Is it event planning people, or is it corporations of individuals who are looking to find out about where they should go for events?
I view...
Because I registered yesterday for
my show?
BizBash.
2,400 people were at Dravitz.
Right. No, not for the show.
Oh, for our newsletter.
For your newsletter, and I looked at the categories, and I said, which one do I qualify under?
Well, we're looking for event professionals and people that are...
You see, I'm also in the event business. I run symposiums. Well, so that's a situation,
Yeah.
and I look at different places. So, I look at certain technology for that space, okay? Can I use audio visuals? Can I beam the show somewhere else? So, you need a situation.
Everybody's looking for all of that
Correct.
stuff.
And if you go to Appella, which is right in the Alexandria Medical Center space, which is the premier medical space over there for biotech companies, it has certain great venues because the companies are located there, and
it's growing.
Hospital Island.
And the buildings
one building with the second building.
The buildings are filling up. There's more clientele, so we draw a lot from that clientele right there. But we've created a space which Paul alluded to. Certain things are more of a priority to people. But I think when you have an event or meeting space that you're really building out for that purpose, the technology and the infrastructure that you have to do is so important.
Prior to the show, we were talking about Manhattan-centric, major city-centric, borough-centric. Can we see, at one time people would say, I want to go to Steiner's studio or Kaufman Astoria's studio for an event. Do we see the boroughs as a big event or meeting facility type of space?
I believe that people are meeting all over the place, and that
Everywhere.
and it is we're basically human gatherings. After 9/11, when everybody thought the industry was falling apart, there were more human gatherings than ever because people had this desire to get together. Whether we profited from it or not was a different case, but people need to gather.
Look, I mean, we're looking at stuff in Brooklyn right now. I mean, I think that for our business, because of the fact that we're very corporate focused, corporate density matters to us because really we're a local provider, not a destination. The average company that utilizes our services walks to us within 7 or 10 minutes because that's how local in New York City is defined. So local in Brooklyn might be different, and local in DC, I can tell you, is about a 35-minute drive where we just opened up a venue. So we're believers in the boroughs, but for us, I mean, I'm a big believer in urbanization. I think you never want to bet against demographics. And if you think about where populations are moving today, they're moving in, not out, generally speaking. And so when we look at our growth as a company and we look at who our clients are, which is really the Fortune 1000, we know in order to best serve them, we need to be where they are. So it's New York, it's Boston, it's Chicago, it's San Francisco, it's London. The core markets are kind of where we're prioritizing our focus.
What about Jersey City?
The right deal structure, we could probably figure out how to make it work.
I think what you just said is very interesting. The right deal structure. So you're basically saying that Jersey City, if we had the opportunity of entrance at a very reasonable price, we might take the risk reward because it's an untapped market. It's not really for everyone, even though Jersey City has a substantial number of Fortune 100 companies
They do.
in the Newport area, but not all over Jersey City over there. How do you, when you're looking at locations or thinking of future expansion, how do you look at the boroughs or New Jersey and other markets? Because as you just said, hey, Jersey City, Hoboken is nice.
I grew up there. I mean, I love it, but it's not New York City.
Right.
We've been actively looking in Brooklyn and Queens for commissary space. At the same time, we're actively looking for event space out there. Now, it makes us very nervous when we start to think there's a psychological barrier to going over or underwater, and we don't know how serious that is. So you may be 2 train rides away from the 59th Street and Lexington Avenue train, but people in their minds will say it seems further than going 4 stops or 8 stops up or down on the number 6 or number 4 or 5 line. So we're looking, and we're going to do the studies, and we may lay down a big bet out there. But the one thing that makes us nervous is the psychological barrier that we think exists for people to go out to Queens or Brooklyn for events.
I teach a course at NYU, and last week I spoke about the boroughs, and we spoke about Staten Island. Now, Staten Island, they are building the wheel. The wheel in Staten Island is 40% larger than the wheel in London. And next to it, they are building an outlet center, and they're building a Lighthouse Point. Now, you talk about water. Staten Island is definitely difficult over there on water. How many events are advertised on BizBash in Staten Island?
None in Staten Island are advertised. However, we said that about Brooklyn a few years ago, and now the AOL is doing their upfronts in Brooklyn, and people are moving over there.
Brooklyn has trains that go over.
But it was still
Staten Island. You have a ferry and you have a bridge.
It was a psychological barrier still.
Right.
Listen, I think that might be challenging, but it's still an opportunity. I think you have to, as both an individual or as a company, a group, evaluate where you are, where you want to go. You got to really think forward and think in the future. Whether Brooklyn had great transportation, does anyone think it was going to be this busy 7, 8 years ago? Some of the smart money, yeah, they invested in it, they bought, and they're doing it very well right now. A lot of that's happening in Queens. You just got to see, are you going to be in too early? Are you going to be in at the right time to catch the wave? That's like everything. But I think you have to evaluate where you want to be and if it makes sense for your business.
Let's be realistic that the #1 meeting space in the U.S. has probably been Las Vegas and Miami, Orlando over there. but for certain types of meetings and the types of events, ICSC, or the other scenarios. Where do you see opportunities for the meeting business? Okay, or is there any possibility in the Bronx? Forget the Bronx even. We were talking on one of my shows recently, how do you look at the Hudson Yards? We know that Neiman Marcus is going over there. We know that there are situations, there's going to be one train over there. Have you thought about the Hudson Yards?
We've been focused on having conversations in that area for a long time. I mean, if you think about transportation hubs, you've got Grand Central and Penn Station, which really anchor New York City. And clearly with Hudson Yards coming, you can imagine what's going to happen to Penn Station area over the next 10 to 15 to 20 years. So we're big believers in West, but again, I think to Arthur's point about when you're building a business with finite amount of resources, meaning people and money, you have to make the right business and capital decisions. And so for us, when we're looking over the next 24 to 36 months, it's very much focused on the pockets where we know we're going to be successful. So, for example, we have 2 units within 5-minute walk of Grand Central. We're going to announce a third pretty soon. And so there's a benefit to sticking with what works, I guess I should say.
Now, when the Mandarin opened, Columbus Circle was an unproven area. But the combination of the Time Warner Center, the combination of the apartments and everything, and the convenience of the location really made the location.
Listen, I remember it well because, as part of the opening a year before and still currently, engaged, and, we're seeing a very, successful both year and looking forward. But I do remember that area was really not even considered a real hub of the city. And, it took a lot of efforts between, my team driving it and marketing it properly, but everything that supported it, the center itself, and then all those residential units, and then other hotels coming around, just made the area a very dense and in-demand area. But I remember in the early years, you had to really convince people that was going to be the place. Now look, 12, 13 years later, how busy it is, and it's extremely successful.
And that's been true. I mean, if you look at Chelsea Market, that was a wasteland when Irwin bought that and had this crazy idea to build out essentially a mall of food vendors. It's turned out to be wildly successful. When you go out to Jamestown's building in Long Island City and they have a similar vision, you're scratching your head going, it'll never work here. And you wonder, well, that's what they said 20 years ago in Chelsea. Now,
just an industry city.
Right. Well, exactly.
Now further in Sunset Park.
Well, Chelsea Piers, Abigail Kirsch was an afterthought, and they're very successful there.
Exactly. So, the question is, where you're going to be successful, Ryan, right? You can continue to bet. When do you lay your chips down on something that's a little at the edge? Maybe the reward is greater, but the risk is greater.
And a lot of that gets down back to the deal structure, right? For us, we're still in the space arbitrage business, right? We don't own our real estate. These are all long-term leases. So, if I owned, I have a permanent view. Whereas as a tenant, even if you sign a really long lease in New York, it's 11, maybe 15 years. And so, I think the challenge is in some of these projects, the benefit you have in owning the real estate is different than being a tenant coming in. And that's a challenge for us. I would have loved to be in some of these emerging markets as an owner because I have the benefit of patience.
You know what? Let's look at some of the owners who have also they made different changes. SL Green, not Vornado, went into the office share business. In addition to being shared office, they competed with Regis. And there were other people who have gone into that type of business. Do you see owners going into your business?
It's a great question. I think what I believe today is that because of how competitive everything is, there's a power and focus that's never existed before. And if you do not focus on what you do really well and do it better than the next guy, it's only going to be a matter of time before you're on the losing end. And so what I think is that at least in the relationships we have, which includes SL Green and some of the largest landlords in the city, if not the country, is they're coming to us and saying, we believe our tenants need this because they are looking to be more efficient. in their footprint.
Which is exactly what.
Which is what happened to Alexandria Center.
They said we need this.
And what they're also
And it's been
saying,
very successful, and I see it continuing to grow, and that is really helping the complete campus and everything else that they're delivering to their.
Well, the reason that these guys are successful is because the world of collaboration has changed.
The nature of work is different.
It
yeah.
actually works. That people are learning to be collaboration athletes, and that you can either play putt-putt or you can be Tiger Wood.
And how important is social media for the meeting and event space business?
Well, it's huge. I mean, if you think about it, the benefit that live events have today, especially when you look at social media, is if I have a conference with 150 people, if those people have 500 followers each and each one of them sends out a tweet from that conference, think about the distribution. And so, I think the power of social media, especially as it relates to the events industry, and particularly when you think about where marketing and advertising spend is going. I can't tell you how many more of our clients today are coming from that part of the business. And the reason is because most every major brand is looking to live event to create awareness.
The 25%, the fact that 25% of all marketing is now events, is fueled by social media. And that decor is no longer decor. Decor is social media, because you want to be able to take your camera out and shoot something to make it more.
That's why Instagram is so popular today. People send out the Instagram over there. That's why
Picture speaks 1,000 words, right? I mean,
It's been a huge
There's
shot in the arm.
there's another trend that's happening, and as event spaces disappear, as the Puck building becomes REI, what's happening is spaces, there are pop-up event spaces now, where a landlord will say, I've got 25,000 square feet, that's a great retail store, until I rent it out, let me get $15,000 a day or $20,000 a day for
The
someone to come in.
IAC Center was the perfect example. A beautiful building where people said, hey, it's a great lobby, let me
Many
rent
places
it out.
that do photo shoots and these kind of galleries, they use them for events. so
Right,
they
but
could
this has
have
become,
incremental revenue.
these at one time were not used the true event space.
But that's because the guys that are the visionaries, the Barry and those guys, they understand the power of having people gather
In their space,
in their
too.
space. It's a brilliant marketing idea.
Because it also gets new people to the space.
but that's back to the point about, well, will landlords want to do this themselves, which is I think where we started. And I think the feeling is that they'd rather work with people like us who have distribution and brand presence and sales and marketing, because at the end of the day, you still have to sell seats.
So what we're going to do when we reconvene this meeting later on in my 14th season, we're going to have a landlord. So this way we're going to really find out if they want to do that with all of you. But I really think I'd like to thank my dear friend Paul for bringing such a great group today. I'd like to thank David, Ryan, Arthur, and needless to say, Paul, and I'll see you next week.